One of the most mysterious figures of the 16th and early 17th centuries is the Anglo-Welsh alchemist, mathematician, occultist, astrologer, and teacher John Dee. He once served as a court astronomer to Elizabeth I and was well known for his research into esoteric knowledge. Dee had one of the largest libraries of magical texts in Europe. He owned all sorts of writings on spells, demonology, astrology, and other murky subjects. One day, a particular book came into his possession. It was so cryptic even to him that he devoted the rest of his life trying to decipher it. John believed the book contained some of the deepest mysteries of the universe. He became so desperate to delve into the secrets of the book that he even tried to make contact with angels in the hope that they would help him decipher it. The alchemist said that he was able to communicate with Uriel, who allegedly told him that the book was seen by Adam in the Garden of Eden, and that only the archangel Michael would be able to understand and translate it correctly. The angel also warned John that when he figured out the code of the book, he would die in 2.5 years. Whether Dee got any further answers from the angels is unknown, but experts say he remained obsessed with the book until his death. After his death, the library was looted, and the mysterious book was lost forever. But in 1994, 2 manuscripts by John Dee were found in the British and Bodleian libraries. They turned out to be copies of the long-lost Book of Soiga, which John was trying to decipher. What were the secrets of this demonic book that John learned? How did ancient American people know about terraforming planets? And why does this medieval comic book scare scientists so much? After these manuscripts were found, scientists began extensively studying them. They were written in Latin and were a collection of magical spells and beliefs from the Renaissance. The book contains many secret codes, tables and charts, names and genealogies of angels, and various texts on demonology and astrology. Mathematician Reeds took on the task of deciphering the volume. He tried for a long time to decipher the code of the book, and his efforts paid off. He was able to break the code of the manuscripts. When he decoded the tables, he found that the first 24 were named after the constellations of the zodiac. These constellations, in turn, were associated with a series of magic words. But unfortunately, this code has not yet provided information about the mysteries of the universe. In addition to the code, the author of the book tried other methods to hide the meaning. For example, he wrote the words backwards. Even the title of the book, Soiga, is Agios, which translates from Greek as holy. To this day, people are working to unravel the mysteries of the Book of Soiga, yet it remains as mysterious as ever. John Dee thought this manuscript is of paramount importance, but we will probably never know what exactly that implies. Incidentally, despite angels' warning of death 2.5 years after cracking the code, Reeds is not only still alive, but continues to research the mysterious work. Nevertheless, the exact meaning of the manuscript remains a matter of debate, but scientists are making progress. Almost every religion has a holy main book, which contains text about the creation of the world, important prophecies, and the principles of righteous living. And when we talk about such a book, you probably think of the Bible or Torah. But what if I told you that one of the Mayan nations also had such a sacred book, namely, the Quiche people? This book is called Popol Vuh. It is the foundational sacred account of the Quiche people long before the Spanish conquest of the Mayans. It includes the myth of the creation of the Mayan world, which has become a great mystery to scientists. This book was written by the Spanish missionary Padre Jimenez, who was sent as a parish priest to the village of Santo Tomás Chuila, present-day Chichicastenango. He gradually gained the trust of the local population, consisting for the most part of Quiche Indians, and they decided to show him one of their religious books in 1701, written at the end of the 16th century and kept secret from the conquerors for 1.5 centuries. Realizing the value of the document in his hands, Padre Jimenez immediately got to work, and within 2 years, 1701 to 1703, he managed to copy the manuscript, accompanying it with a crude footnote translation into Spanish. The original has since disappeared, and the copy made by Jimenez remains the only original record of the Indian Bible. In this book, the Indians described how our life on planet Earth was created, and surprisingly for scientists, they described the method of terraforming the planet by alien beings. The book says that the creators found our planet absolutely empty and lifeless and breathed life into it. And the best part is that this book echoes the Torah, which also describes a group of creators led by Yahweh. Also, Popol Vuh talks about how the creators made paradise, how they shared their knowledge with people, and how people were driven out of paradise. This book also describes a catastrophe that is very similar to the flood that is mentioned in the Torah and the Bible. In Native American mythology, it says that the creators of this catastrophe decided to punish all the creatures on earth for disappointing them. The Torah and the Bible say that only Noah and his family survived this catastrophe, but the Popol Vuh says all early humans and creatures were wiped out and new ones created. This myth is similar to the description of the catastrophe that wiped out the dinosaurs. But how the Mayans knew about the event that occurred 66.5 million years ago remains a big mystery to scientists. And the most remarkable thing is that the Jews who wrote the Torah and the K'iche' people had no way to intersect or share knowledge, but their legends about the creation of the world were described almost identically. This sacred scripture still haunts scientists, and if it is not just a coincidence, it pretty much proves the theory about alien origin of life on our Earth. Have you ever had nightmares? The author of this book obviously had some very psychedelic dreams. In fact, you can hardly call it a book at all. It is more like a medieval comic book with demons. There is no description of any of the drawings, and those who study this book have to only guess what the author wanted to show. It was 1565, 12 years after the death of Francois Rabelais, the French Renaissance writer best known for his satirical masterpiece, The Life of Gargantua and Pantagruel, a bawdy tale of two giants. The Parisian bookseller and publisher Richard Breton published Les Songes Drolatiques de Pantagruel, which translates into English as The Drolatic Dreams of Pantagruel. The slim volume, with the exception of a short preface by Breton, consists entirely of images, 120 engravings depicting a series of fantastic, frightening, demonic figures reminiscent of some of Bosch's most imaginative and perverse creations. The creatures are all depicted in 16th century clothing and are most likely caricatures of famous personalities of the time. The demons are dressed as barons, cardinals, and kings, which is probably an allusion to 16th century society. Maybe the images are bizarre dreams of the author transferred to paper, or perhaps the author of the work saw who was a real demon in human form among the people in his time. It is impossible to know for sure since the author did not leave any accompanying text to the illustrations. And the actual authorship of the work also remains a mystery. Despite the title and the preface in which Richard Breton attributes the work to the French writer Francois Rabelais, scholars say it is hardly his work, but rather a marketing ploy. Many frightening books on demonology and magic were written in the Middle Ages. But as you know, the Middle Ages were famous not only for witches, but also for massacres. And the most important tract on methods of combating witches and sorcerers was in the book Malleus Maleficarum, which is better known as Hammer of Witches. This tract was published in 1487 by Heinrich Kramer and Jacob Sprenger, two Dominican priests, and both were sanctioned by the church as inquisitors. The book became the primary reference text for witch hunters and inquisitors in the late medieval period. Hammer of Witches instructed magistrates on how to identify those who might be involved in witchcraft, as well as how to interrogate them and get them to confess. The book also describes how to trick the defendant into confessing. After the defendant had confessed, it was necessary to obtain proof of the confession, which was often also obtained by torture. The book also described what to do with a guilty person. Usually, they were sentenced to death, and most often, through being burned at stake. Unfortunately, in that notorious time, there was no presumption of innocence, and if you were accused of witchcraft, you had to prove your innocence, which was almost impossible to do. Now in court, the prosecutor had to prove your guilt if you were accused of crimes. This made the court much fairer than the medieval court. Malleus Maleficarum is rightly considered one of the world's most infamous and despised books. What do you think of this book? Write in the comments. Don't hesitate to like our video, subscribe, and you can check out other videos about the most mysterious books in the history of mankind.